One thing about fishing at a jig, when you do get a bite, you need to wait for the fish to take it in. You'll feel, a lot of times you'll feel them grab the plastic. You need to give it to them a lot, just like fishing plastics. You need to give it to them. Wait till they have it. You'll start to feel more of a solid feeling. That's when you set the hook. Sometimes you'll feel them take it in all the way. You'll feel them tap, 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 and then kind of a gulp. If you do set too early, throw it right back in there. A lot of times you'll catch them still. If they're just grabbing onto the tail, you don't get a hook in them. A lot of times they'll take it if you get it right back there. One thing I've heard from a lot of the pros say it, and I'm not sure why, and I've read it on a lot of forums, and when I was beginning, it really screwed me up. It's, if in doubt, set the hook. That's not something I'd recommend for beginners. It's there's some truth to it, but most of the time, if in doubt, just hold your rod perfectly still. Don't pull. Wait for the fish to do its thing. If you pull, the fish is going to drop it. If you set the hook, the fish probably doesn't have it, or you have a log. If in doubt, set the hook. It's going to get you a lot of log snags. If you're coming over a tree, a lot of times that will feel like a fish. So if a lot of times you'll be in doubt. A lot of times I am. If you set the hook, you're going to bend the weed guard back and be right in the log. So it's not my recommendation. If you're coming over logs, you gotta, these will go through just about anything if you don't pull them too hard. You just gotta work them real slow over the logs, or weeds, or whatever you're fishing. But logs are one thing where you get a lot of snags, but if you work it real slow, never pull too hard, you can go through just about anything with a jig. But if you're setting the hook happy, setting the hook into logs, you're going to get snagged a lot. Best thing, if you feel something you're not sure, just wait. The fish isn't going to, rarely will drop it. You're going to lose more fish by pulling it away from them than waiting. Most of the time I'm out fishing, I'll have two boxes of jigs. Some lakes I know one color will outproduce, and I'll narrow down to just those colors, but my two main colors are black and brown. So I have a box of brown, box of black. The black ones are, for the most part, black and blue. Something like this. The Strike King I like. Eakins jigs. Whole variety here. For brown, I'd include, with a little chartreuse and black. Brown and orange. There's another brown and orange. And these are all Eakins jigs. Something like a Northland Jungle jig. Mostly brown. This one I would trim down. Most of the skirts I'll trim down to about there. Trim off some of that orange, but this is more of a green pumpkin. It's still the brown, basically a brown color. And the only other color I carry, really besides brown and black, would be white, and I hardly ever use those. Once in a while I'll use these, and I have a couple of swimming jigs that are chartreuse blue for panfish imitators. And then your blacks are basically black and purple. You see, this is more of a standard head shape. That's your standard jig. This is a Strike King. You see, it's got a heavier weed guard. As far as jig head, you'll have some that are made to go more through weeds. The Jungle Jig is one of those, more of a pointed head. And you'll have a football head that's made for rocks. And then basically your standard jig. Most of the time, for most applications, weeds, light rock, the standard jig like this is all you need. The Eakins jig head is more of a standard Eakins jig. Also is just like a standard head. Nothing too fancy. These come with or without rattles. As far as trailers, I think it's it's a lot of personal preference and confidence. There's a lot of different brands that'll work. Pack-a-craw happens to be one that I like. As you can see, threaded all the way on. That's what I'm using now. For crawling along the bottom, I like the full. I like to have it threaded on. It's less hook and more soft plastic for the fish to not feel, and then I think it's a little more natural for crawling along the bottom. If I'm fishing more vertical, a lot of times I'll use a chunk like this. I think that gives it a more erratic fall when you're flipping into heavy vegetation. It'll just up around. Just pitching into about 3 feet of water. I got a Eakins craw jig, Eakins jig 3/8 ounce with pack-a-craw I happen to have on here. It's green pumpkin watermelon color. Always free spool with your thumb on the spool. A lot of times you'll feel just something a little different on the way down. When that happens, I'll stop it, I'll let it drop all the way down, and I'll just hold it and wait to feel if there's a fish there or not. So you're just pitching to targets, short targets, 15 yards type target, there's a bite. You got to get them out pretty quick on this stuff. This is 30-pound line that I'm using. That's a pretty decent one. This one has some weird coloring on it. Normally I'll use 30 pounds. Sometimes I'll drop down to 20 and 50 a lot of times if it's real heavy. It's a decent fish. It's got to be close to 18. Look at the coloring on this one though. I don't know if I've seen one quite like that. The MSRD board. Just a hair under 19. That's a good fish. Nice stump right here. It's only about 10 feet away here. It's got some roots that go out. You can kind of see, I can feel them down there. There's one. Good for him to take it. There's an underwater stump there that you can't see, but flipped it right up there, and he felt something weird there when it went down, so I just waited. He took it, but a pretty subtle bite. There's another good fish. $18.5.